manipulate data.
Robert, how difficult has it been for you to get this information out there? Because it seems to me this is something the public needs to know. Any parent in this land needs to know that, whether mercury is in the vaccine or not. What difficulties have you faced in trying to bring the public this knowledge?
Well, I would say Cheryl Atkinson, who's the CBS reporter, said that, and who is one of the few reporters who have been trying to cover this issue honestly. And she says that this is by far the most censored issue, the most censored controversy of the century. That no television network will allow you to talk about this. No newspaper in the country will allow me to write editorials on this. I can write editorials for almost any newspaper, but if I try to write an editorial on this issue, none of them will accept it. And this is one of the big problems, is that this industry is so powerful. It's $1 trillion industry, so it's almost as big as the oil industry. It spends twice on lobbying what the oil industry spends. It spends 4 times on lobbying what defense and aeronautics. It is by far the biggest expenditures on political expenditures of any industry in this country, and it's been able to get rid of all of the checks and balances that stand between a rapacious industry on the one hand and our children on the other. The politicians have been bought off. The press, I ate breakfast last week with the president of a network news division, and he told me that during non-election years, 70% of the revenues, of the advertising revenues for his news division come from pharmaceutical ads. And if you go on TV any night and watch the network news, you'll see they become just a vehicle for selling pharmaceuticals. So, and he also told me that he would fire a host who brought onto his station a guest who lost him a pharmaceutical account. So there's no way that this debate can occur on television, and the radio and newspapers have those same kind of subversions. They're getting huge amounts of pharmaceutical money. So you have the government, the politicians that have been neutralized. You have the regulatory agency that's been captured, that is just CDC has become just a sock puppet for the agency it's supposed to regulate. A lot of people in the press think, well, we're doing the right thing by not putting these editorials in. And it's not just the mainstream press. It is the so-called alternative press, Mother Jones, the Huffington Post, Slate, Salon. None of them will put editorials in about this issue. And they're convinced, first of all, they say, well, the science has been debunked. But none of them, not one reporter in this country, not one reporter can tell you a single scientific study that they're relying on for that statement. What they rely on are government officials who are corrupt, who are telling them what the science says. And I say to them, well, what study are you talking about? And they'll say, well, the World Health Organization and CDC and FDA all say this, and you're just a lawyer. How can you argue with that? And I say, well, I've actually read the science. Let's talk about the science. But nobody will talk about it because they can't talk about it. And so you have this situation where they think that they are that if they say something that's critical, if they allow somebody like me on who says something that's critical about vaccine safety, that they're going to be encouraging a so-called anti-vax movement that will end up with children not being vaccinated and then dying from infectious diseases. So there's an absolute barrier, and it has that moral gloss on it. But the real outcome of their unwillingness to allow these debates into the public forum, of shutting out these debates from the public square, is to embolden the vaccine industry and the corrupt federal officials to do whatever they want, because there is absolutely no economic incentive for them to do anything except for focus on their profits. So they're not focused on safety. They're completely focused on profits. And we have the sickest generation in American history today as a result of that.
You know,